Hi, my name is Stephanie Chalana Brown, and you're watching a new edition of Dialogue 340. Audre Lorde reminds us that the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. As we celebrate Virgin Islands History Month and Women's History Month in what we're calling Her Story, how are we as women who often been at the other end of systematic oppression seeking leadership? Are we simply absorbing systematic oppression that was once forced upon us? Or are we seeking leadership that truly changes? With me today, I have Frandelle Gerard, a heritage steward and preservationist, and also the director of Crucian Heritage and Nature Tourism. We have Karen McIntosh Bruce, who is a preservationist of our oral history musically. We have Miss Fifi Santa Cruz, who's joining us as a mother and as a budding photographer and as an observer of Virgin Islands culture. We have with us Miss Eliana Schuster Brown, who is an artist, an educator, mother, and community activist. Join us on our story. So, just to rebuttal, sometimes at the end, as Virgin Islands women, as women of color, historically, we've known that we've been at the end of systematic oppression. So now that we're seeking leadership, do you think that we're doing a good job, or should we explore how we can use our feminine principles to make systematic change so that we're not just absorbing it? What's your take?
I feel like balance is important, and I feel like in every office, I don't know, every industry, we need to have female and masculine energy. I feel like that's why we have the yin and yang. That's why we have the opposites. It's important to uplift both, but also we don't really see our women in a lot of, like, we're starting to see a lot more change now. Like as we get more access to the internet and like everybody's culture individually, I'm seeing more women in prominent positions, and I feel like they're change makers, they're way makers. And when the men get behind the fact that we are emotional creatures and we need to, because we're nurturers and we're compassionate beings naturally, they can use that as a tool. We will be able to, I think, work harmoniously and make better, make changes in our community. That's my 2 cents.
Freda, how are you using modern tools to help lead a way with such an incredible organization? And your organization both consists of you and your daughter, so it's a female duo. How do you use your womanhood to help navigate heritage space?
So I come from it from a slightly different perspective, in that we are the result of matriarchal society. Women have never been just a victim, right? And I think we need to release that victimhood perspective, because we're seeing something now, which is the rise of the feminine, the divine feminine. I grew up in a space in the Virgin Islands, in St. Croix, where women in leadership was every day. They were business owners, they were professionals, they were the lead educators, they were front and center at almost every space, except elected officials. But there too, there was representation, always. So we grew up seeing women as the matriarch in the household, holding family together, and in community, in business, in schools, in almost every area, there were women in leadership positions. So bringing that to today, I grew up with a sense of understanding that neither womanhood nor my blackness nor my Caribbeanness was a limitation. It was a gift.
Yes.
And I think that's what we need to really be using. And that's what we try to do at Chant, is elevate that heritage, elevate that history. Folks go to the Four Queens, but we can keep going beyond, before them and before them. And women have always been in leadership
Right.
in our community. So it's embracing that, moving that forward, and using the power of womanhood and also the maternal instinct that a lot of us have in cultivating the youth. Because I think one of the things that we've begun to lose is that sense of community care that women in community provided for everyone. We've taken on that American cultural piece of every person on their own, and that's not our truth. And we see the results of trying to adopt that as reflected in the behavior of our youth today. If we went back to who we really are and we remembered, everybody can tell a story about somebody in the community, in their neighborhood, who every child could go to and feel safe.
Yeah, it's true.
Is it sort of like forced upon us because there's like extreme capitalistic structures now where like I guess like I've heard Eliana talk about like there were more educators that have the capacity to do more student-oriented activities outside of the classroom, but because of like the structures we live in now, so much is demanded from people. Like, so do you think it's something naturally we absorbed, or is it sort of like something that's been forced upon us and we're not able to act as a community collective and we've more moved into like individuality out of a survival? Just a question asking.
You asking me?
Yeah, asking.
I think we've gosh, there's a terrible term. I'm not going to use it. I think we have accepted external influence, and we have chosen
Okay.
to eliminate our own tradition and history in our education system. So you can look back at the 1920s when it's a one-room classroom and there's the image of the male teacher in front of the children and there's the blackboard with the writings. You probably know this historic photograph. And in the corner, there's an image of the continent of Africa. Our children were raised knowing about the continent of Africa and where they came from. And then we stopped teaching that. So we made that decision as community, as government, by accepting wholesale what was shown as the American system of education, where all our textbooks come out of Texas. That's absurd for a predominantly black community to accept that and perpetuate that for 30, 40, 50 years. That type of indoctrination now informs our children today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Karen, as somebody who holds on to our stories through music, what's your experience in having a relationship with your grandmother and being able to hold on to our stories and not only learn the tradition of Cariso, but also learn your grandmother's perspective from a different time? How's that molded you? How do you think it's different, or you don't think it's different to what we're experiencing today?
Well, something Frandelle was saying about our education system and us adopting the American way. And we were speaking a little earlier about family and gatherings, having gatherings. And that's one way of passing down traditions. And so I recall times with my grandmother, I wish I had documented them because some of the things we take lightly, we don't remember. And that's embodied in us that we carry on with our children. A thought I had is that, with this modernization, everybody wants their own home. for themselves. We put up fences. So the children that's next door, we don't even know their name. We don't speak to them. If we have that sense of community back again, I think that a lot of the wars that we have in right now would be lessened. Probably not resolved, but lessened. But growing up, hearing my grandmother sing in the house, following her to events where she would put on skits and so on.
Right.
I didn't know that that was keeping culture alive. That's something that I should have grasped onto and held on to more information. But I think we can do more still, and there's some people that we can still gather information. We usually go. Sorry, my nose is. We usually go to the usual suspect, right? But you speak to people randomly and you find out, oh, they've left this, they know more.
Yeah.
And so I think if we have more informal gatherings, we find out that when walking through the streets of Frederickstead, an elderly person would say, what's your name? You got to say your first name and your last name, who you belong to. So now you know, they know who your parents are, your grandparents are, and there's more acceptance, more warmth towards you that they can speak to you, give you advice.
Yeah.
And I miss that, but you know, we're the ones that need to be doing that. So we got to think, as women, we're more nurturing, and we need to push that more so that we could build a better community like how it was before.
You had a salient point. Like who deciphers and what measuring tools do we decipher as people we highlight? Because sometimes you hear the same names, and not that we're not appreciative of the works that people do, but like for me, you are just as impactful as someone who doesn't have a biography written up in some, Wikipedia. That our collective memory is important. So who are persons that don't get called often? Who are people that you appreciate that have provided you with those sort of like tools and knowledge? And those persons are important.
Well, for me, two people pop in my head right away. And that's Miss Frederick from Janet Woodson Junior High School.
Educators.
Yeah, she used to have me in the classroom just reading my books because I didn't necessarily want to be out in the courtyard. And she had this way of nurturing you academically, but also socially to understand how you operate within that social space. And I really love that about her. And two will probably be Miss Hobson from, I think that was from Woodson as well. Actually, she's the principal currently. She had a way of recognizing you and, keeping you outside of that box and looking at you as an individual and nurturing your special attributes and your skills. So that would be the two. Oh, and Chucky.
Senator Chucky.
Senator Chucky, when she come into our room, she had that presence, she had that sense of leadership, and it's someone that you always used to listen to when she speaks. So I think those three for me would have been
that's beautiful.
that made an impact for me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Those are just really strong ladies.
Yes.
Eliana, do you have persons that...
I do. My auntie Suzette Bow James, who is my great aunt, my grandmother's sister. Yeah, she's everybody's auntie. She's, right now she's an advocate for heart health. I'm saying it wrong probably, but she had she just had a major transplant done, and she's doing well.
Lessons to you.
Yes, and I miss her very much. But she was another educator who was avid in a lot of children's lives. She was just such a she was like a mother to everybody. You said auntie, but she was like a mom to everybody too, because she was heavily involved in the arts in our community in just different ways. Culturally with the quadrille dances, she everything culture. If you go to houses madras everywhere, she embodied culture in a modern way for me. And she also pushed me artistically, and everything I do, she'd be like, yeah, you could do it. Yeah, you could do it. Yeah, of course, do it. And I was like, really? She was like, yeah, I can't. I do. Oh no, it's up to you. And those are the things that actually helped drive me. And her sister, my grandmother was a social worker, and I saw those things. I saw what she did for the community in that way. My mom, who was also an educator, Elaine Llanos Schuster, who was an educator for so many years, and she, to me, changed the game in physical education. She embodied the health and the physical education dynamic in Ricardo Richards Elementary School, and she didn't even go to school for that. She just went in and she just took the reins, and I mean, it was the best experience I've ever seen with like how you merge the two. I don't know. The kids loved it. Who used to like to go to health? Who used to like health class? She made the two correspond, and it was phenomenal. So I have those people to honor and thank today.
Frandelle?
Gosh. Now I'm aging myself, right? But I remember Sunday dinners that my godmother, my nanny, Leota Marco, who was not a Crucian. She was from Michigan, but she would host. And you had people like Pearl B. Larson, and there was a Dr. Richards, who was an African American physician who worked in Frederiksted at the Frederiksted, what was then hospital, right? Then it became the clinic. There was this Annie Disha Bear. You had this collection of women, and they actually created a chapter of a national organization, a women's business organization. So I grew up with all these women who were just phenomenal. Miss Marco was probably the first black postmaster, but she was passing, so they didn't know she was black, right?
The dynamics.
Hey, it was that time. So there were people like that, and then I go on my mother's side. It's a whole set of other women that were leaders.
Yeah.
Grandmother was Natividad Romero, and she never learned English, but she could understand it. Romero Nieves was her maiden name, and then Titi Fina, Josefina Morales, and probably the one that everybody in Frederiksted remembers was my Titi Isabel, Miss Isabel, from Harrigan. And hers was that house. I always had 2 big pot of rice, and no child in Frederiksted went hungry.
Wow.
And fast forward to the end of her life, as she developed dementia and would go wandering. All them boy on the street would make sure she got to where she thought she needed to be, and then they got her back home
Respect.
safely.
That's such a big deal.
So it's that full circle of caring. So I grew up in a very strong matriarchal tradition. Yeah.
Engaging in like some of our arts, I want to say some quotes from some dynamic Caribbean women. So, no people can truly be great who do not produce good literature. The other quote is, a people's art is the genesis of their freedom. Who are people who are women who are stewarding in HerStory in the Virgin Islands that you find fascinating?
Wow.
A lot.
Right?
There are a lot.
It's a lot.
I can start with this person right here.
Yeah. Yes.
I am appreciative of you. And sometimes you're very quiet. And I see in this later on in your life now that you are doing more performances. Can you tell us about what brought that out into you? What do you think is important that you start doing it now?
Like what I said earlier, growing up in my grandmother's house, that I didn't realize that she was a bearer of culture.
And inform everybody, who is your grandmother?
My grandma, Ethel McIntosh. As a matter of fact, Mahogany Road is named in her honor for her contributions to Virgin Islands culture.
Okay.
And so I have it in me. My dad, Blinky McIntosh, I gotta mention a man's name. My mom, Virgin McIntosh, she's a performer, but she's a background person.
Yeah.
So all of that talent is in my blood.
Yes, it is.
And so I decided that, you spoke about great educators. I'm a retired teacher myself.
yes, we know.
And so I incorporated the arts in my math classes. So we would sing lessons, or we just take a break. Okay, we got our lessons done. We're gonna either read a story, or like Anansi stories, the Aesop fables. You're teaching, but they're also being entertained.
Can I put you on a spot? What's that song that education doesn't ever end? So although we're adults and we're not children, what's that song you think that all adults in the Virgin Islands should know that carries the story of us?
Yeah. I like that one.
A song that carries the story of all of us.
And you have to sing it.
Well,
Yes, that's why you're alluding to.
okay, there's one I'm really proud of, Calypso and Me. My stage name is Lady Mac. I don't know if you're mentioning it.
But we know.
We know, Lady Mac.
But they may not know.
So, Carizo to Quelbe to Calypso, our culture evolves so. My ancestors contribute to the art form. Let it be told, bronze, silver, or gold. Although they don't crown me, the stage is where I'll be. Calypso I feel, from me head down to me heel. So don't ask me if I in the Calypso, cause Calypso, they're in me. Thank you.
I thought you were going to carry so. That's what I thought you were going to do. That's the only one I know. I love it.
I'm so appreciative of that. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. Because sometimes, like, our education, like, we have different learners. We were speaking about that. Some people are oratory learners, some people are visual learners. And I think, that really connects to people, like, hearing our stories. We have a strong oral history legacy here in the Virgin Islands. Yeah. So appreciative of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So this is Virgin Islands History Month. So every March, myself along with my colleagues, we would put on a program into the school. So we did that to help keep culture alive and the children appreciative of it. Because in speaking with them in the classroom, I mentioned words simple like quadrille, and they're like, quadrille? What are they? What's that? So we have a responsibility also to educate them about our culture and the history, in addition to math, English, science, social studies. And it gives them something to look forward to, because a lot of our students are very talented.
Oh, yes.
They're
We
talented
don't lack for
in
that.
the arts.
We don't lack for that.
Yeah.
Are there any other writers or persons in the arts you feel are stewarding our culture and heritage really well?
There's somebody, Alsis Brown,
Yes.
who's making sure that writing is captured and books are issued, and she's a phenomenal writer as well.
Virgin Islands Lit Fest, correct?
VI Lit Fest.
Yes, yeah.
So I think, kudos to her and her work and just keeping that moving forward. Had the honor of hearing Dr. Hadia Sewer
Yes. From St. John.
read from what is going to be her first
Literary
fiction
works, yeah.
literary work,
Yeah.
which is phenomenal.
Yes.
But there are a lot of we come from great. If you think of Dr. Gloria Joseph's last two books,
Yes.
They're something that everybody should be reading. And I know I'm missing out on a lot of people. So one of the things that I think is really important for us is to make sure that we grow our libraries, that we make sure it's available to young people. Since the buildings themselves are not accessible, how do we use digitized copies, and how do we make it available to students, and we're not doing readings, we're not doing gatherings like we used to do, where you'd pick up a book and start to read to a child. So I think that's important for us to do to keep it going. But yeah, those are three of. Now I'm sure there's a long
It's a
list.
long
There's
list.
a long list.
Yeah.
Eliana, since you steward so many people in art, do you care to share anybody who's been part of your exhibitions?
Yeah, actually, yes. One person in particular, I mean, there's a lot, but one person in particular I would like to. Yes, I have, Territory 6 is a brand, a local, she's a seamstress, but she's a young lady who's also very quiet and very, to herself. And her name is Aura, and she's been doing this for years, but just been under the radar. She made my flowers, she made my crown, and she made my earrings, and a lot of things that I've worn for a festival when I commentate with Consortium is stuff that belong to her. And I support all seamstresses, but she's one of them that have been like consistent, with providing things. But she recently did a class with you guys at Chant, a woodworking class. And so she has her shoes in my exhibition, and they're phenomenal. If you don't have anything to do, not this week, coming next week, come to see Prolific, and you can see these shoes. I'm gonna actually post them on my Instagram. And she carved these shoes out. She made these. I can't even. You have to see it. She's just a modern day creative, but a Caribbean creative, where she implements her culture in such a heavy way, but it's relatable to our youth.
Material culture?
Yeah, it's relatable to it's things that you will see every day, but it's with our Madras or our African, because we have, we're. So she's one person I wanted to highlight, but there's also Vi Hippie, who is she's an outside the box thinker, and so she's coming out of her shell. So we have to watch for her. There is, who else am I thinking? There is Lauren Davis, Angela Springer. Oh gosh, his name is leaving me. I need one more to say it, please. There's Bodicana Africana is an artist's name, and then there is, begins with a J. Help me, Lord. I'm gonna tell y'all later when I remember it. But she's a Clark, Jaden Clark, and so many others. It's just so many others. Kiana Tong, they're all upcoming, and we create space for them so that they can actually put their best foot forward, and you can actually see what they can do. And they're all about promoting culture and the arts. So.
Fifi, as an observer of culture, would you like to share persons who you think are doing a great job as telling her story? Our story, Virgin Island stories.
Oh boy, off my head. Oh gosh, you have to piggyback to me on that one.
I like
That's
to
a
share.
hard one.
I like to share. We'll never
Right.
be able to
Right.
say the whole picture, but I would like to say to Lorraine
Halima,
Gibbs, Hortense Rowe, Sonia Dean, Sonia Jacob Dow,
Dow, I'm about to say
Summer
yes.
Sibley Brown,
Oh gosh,
Tiffany Yannick,
Yeah.
Halima Roebuck.
Halima Roba.
I gave you one. You see?
Yes, stewarding. Hey, Lavon Bell for sure, all her work, even though
Right,
Jeanette
of course.
Ears is not specifically a Virgin
No,
Island
Lavon,
Ranges
though.
book, but yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing our story as Virgin Islands women as well in Denmark. Share names,
Well,
names.
Yeah.
I think one of the things about Levon that, we think about that Denmark thing, but today you can walk down 91st and Fifth Avenue in New York City, and sitting on the sidewalk are 3 buildings that she designed and created, made out of what we call gingerbread.
Oh, yes,
to reflect the architectural,
Victorian style, like Creole
yeah, but
Victorian style.
yeah, but more the traditional vernacular building. And I mean that's a big deal
is.
at a major museum in New York that speaks specifically to St.
Right.
Croix,
Yes.
even more so to Frederickstead, because gingerbread you don't find in Christiansted. They're so I think we have to just give her big kudos, and coming from a place we're now hosting at Chant the Youth Art Month's exhibit, and to find out that in a year so many of the public schools lost their art teachers.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Right.
we've got all this incredible work that English AP teachers and science teachers and
Miss
Evers have
we
just
appreciate you, Miss
stood
Lizette,
up
yes.
and
Yeah.
made sure that children are engaging in creating
Yes.
art. And I think, we need to be careful about cultivating artistic expression in our children and providing that avenue because that voice, that ability to voice their inner feelings is essential to their growth. And by eliminating art, eliminating music,
You take away their
we're
voice.
taking away so much. Because St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John, St. Croix, we've produced so many amazing artists, performers that have gone worldwide and are still going worldwide. But how do we continue to do that if the very place they spend so much time isn't cultivating it? And if it means that some of us have to volunteer, that's what we got to do.
Right.
To make sure that the children have access.
The misconception, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. The misconception that art is not important or is not lucrative is, I think, the basis of the issue. Because even in, I'm not saying our education, I'm just saying even in education overall, they miss the mark on specifically directing the children to art. You can implement it in literature and math and stuff like you said, but it's when you have a specific foundation for artistic expression, it does something different for the kids. And I see it with my own students because I teach privately, but I teach in the school too. And I see how the kids, they light up, Miss Brown, we have art today, can we do art tomorrow? It's just, and sometimes we just talk about ethics. Sometimes we don't do even anything specifically art related, but I remind them how it all ties back to each other. So that would bring us back to our cultural roots if we can implement and continue implementing art and tying it back to where we come from.
And dancers as well.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, so
a lot of poetry and
100%
dancing.
Essie Gaston, Dion Donadel,
Oh, yes.
Monica Marin, Maria Stiles. These are persons who are educators within our education system and also who are educators in our general
Yes.
community.
Danica David, we said Danica David.
Danica David,
And Christian Malloy.
Miss Christian Malloy.
Yeah, man, we got a lot.
That's it.
Yeah, we got a lot.
Yeah, we have
got
a lot. So seems like we're dismantling, so yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful for us to have this conversation today, and we had this powerful dynamics of women here today. This was truly an intergenerational conversation, and we're learning more about ourselves, her story, our Virgin Islands history is still in the making. It's not rooted in 100 years ago. There is space to still make history. We're imploring young persons to be part of making that history. We have the opportunity to think of ourselves in a very futuristic way. We also have to remember the principles of Sankofa. So we can take from the past and we can leave the things that didn't work well for us, which was sometimes systematic oppression. And we have the inventiveness to make a brighter and more progressive Virgin Islands. Dialogue 340. Thanks for coming.